Welcome back to RGR. It's another week. We're going to have discussion about everything related to the Kansas City Chiefs and what may or may not be happening. Dan Harms is here. How are you, bud?
Doing good. How you guys doing? How you doing, Ryan?
I'm trying to keep up. Folks, it's going to be a big week. We have lots of content for you, but we're getting it out a little bit early. I'm going to be at the lake this weekend, so all that prep is being squashed into my schedule. But we decided to do this today because there's a little bit of news around the league, and I want to get everybody's temperature or your temperature on everybody going through the process as camp is lifted off at this point.
Yep.
It happened, early Sunday, and I've already got 27 questions about it. Okay, so this is the scenario. Long time ago, in a galaxy far away, Earl Thomas was on the top of the Chiefs' want list. This is prior to Tyron. And at the last second, they almost had a deal done at the last second. Baltimore comes in, throws a lot of money at him. He goes there instead. The Chiefs end up with their current alpha dog on the defense in Tyrann Mathieu.
Yep.
And now that Earl has gone through a number of things, culminating in his release from the Baltimore Ravens, Chiefs fans seem to think that this is a good idea to go grab him and bring him into a locker room that just won a Super Bowl. Comments?
Yeah. So there's a thing called locker room chemistry. I know people don't really believe in that kind of thing, but you look at the alphas they have, and that's who it is. You have Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu are the alphas of that defensive locker room. And it's kind of well known that Earl Thomas is an top alpha. He was the alpha in the Legion of Boom, which was, one of the best defenses in recent memory, and he was the alpha of that team. You don't want to bring somebody who's going to demand to be an alpha in a defense that's got very good chemistry and two alphas, and that doesn't mesh well. And that's how you can screw up a lot of things. I get that people think that bringing in another safety allows Spags to use more 3 safety sets. I totally understand that. There is a reason they've been throwing bodies at safety just to get more versatility in there. But for everything that Earl has left in the tank, there's everything he's got also outside of off the field. And currently he's bringing it onto the field. He posted that Instagram message yesterday, basically complaining, never actually apologizing, just complaining about it, like just saying, yeah, I don't really care. That's just who I am. And you don't want to bring that in. No, this is not a good idea to just say, yeah, why not? Spags can use him. Just because you can use him doesn't mean you should.
And at this point, coming off of a championship, I think it does more harm than good, specifically because you have a locker room that's been through it together. And I think adding that disruption, and it's not insignificant that the team that he had the most success with moved on from him, and his new team moved on from him inside of a calendar year.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And I was a proponent of bringing him in back in the day. In light of everything that's happened, I think the Chiefs dodged a bullet there. Thank you, Baltimore, for that little uptick in his contract. So I don't think that we could have projected how good a leader Tyrann was going to be before he came here. I think folks in Houston had an idea, but I don't know that it had taken full account. At this point, I don't want to do anything to derail his leadership within that room, especially given how young the secondary is right now.
Yeah, and, I can kind of understand Thomas going off the rails a little bit. He decided to go to Baltimore where he thought he'd have a better, he's going to get more money, and then the team that almost had you to a contract goes and wins the Super Bowl, and you get knocked out in the first round. So this might have something to do with it mentally. He's just kind of frustrated, and maybe he's looking at their defense right now, and they're just like, they don't look as good as he thought they were going to. It's got younger. They've lost some pieces on the defensive line, and he's frustrated with how they're playing right now, and it's just not. We'll put it this way. They're not stopping all the big plays like Earl Thomas had said last year, like they were going to stop all the big plays. And I don't think that's happening. And he's frustrated, and obviously losing out on a Super Bowl ring is also adding to that, even though he's got one. So it's all kind of mentally falling apart for him right now. And not just in football sense, in his personal life too. So
well, and it's not just him. We can't forget how much Derrick Henry's going to miss him. I mean, it's difficult.
No, you really can't. I mean, there's no replacement for that kind of run support.
Right. And folks, we're making fun because it's the topic of the day, but that's our takes. Bottom line, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be interested. So I don't look for them to make this move. Don't be surprised if it's pretty silent on that front. That said, it goes hand in hand with the fact that you have who I think has fulfilled to this point as much as you can in one season, a guy that has fulfilled his potential that I had him ranked in the top of his draft class at the safety position. And Juan Thornhill is actually running in sevens now, as we heard on Sunday, doing more. He's coming back. I certainly don't want anything to get in between the communication aspect that he and Tyron have to continue to develop in order for him to reach his potential. Anything that slows that down, I am definitely not for. But how encouraged are you by Juan being back out there?
Yeah, before they started getting the camp together, I was under the impression, at least from everything that I saw on his Twitter page, and he's already running and stuff like that he would be getting geared up back into speed. As camp went along, seeing him on the PUP list wasn't a surprise by any stretch. They don't want to just rush guys that are going to eventually be all pros back into a situation where they can get hurt, especially this season. And I really do believe that the Chiefs have a very good opportunity to have two all-pro safeties on this team, and Matthew and Thornhill. That's just how it is. And, it goes from possibly signing Thomas to then instead signing Matthew, who's an all-pro, and then you draft Thornhill in the third round, or it was the second round. They have 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
I think it was the end of the second round for Thornhill, and he's going to eventually, if we're looking at his trajectory as an all-pro free safety, that's just what it is. He's got everything to do that. So you really couldn't get much better with how that turned out. So,
well, you got both those players for what you would have had to give up to get Earl.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that does make an impact beyond just that position, because we know that the corners are going to need the help from the safeties over the top. That's going to be key this particular season. And I agree with you. I think Juan has the potential to get all the way up to all pro. That's not going to happen this season, folks. No. I don't want to put that expectation on him, because yes, he's back and they are taking him along now. And I'm really happy to see that, but you never know when there's going to be a hiccup. Anybody with a significant knee injury like that can always have a little bit of setbacks. So don't worry if that comes through. He's still going to get there. I just don't know if he can make that progression this season. I think it's just going to be about making more plays on the ball. That's what I'm telling Juan Thornhill if I'm coaching him. What else do you want to see from him?
Just being this season in his terms doesn't matter so much to me. He can play at the same level that he played last year, being a little bit more understanding of where he needs to be on the field, and I'll be okay with that as long as he gets through the season unscathed, and as long as it takes for them to get back into it. You don't want to risk the future just for this season, and I think they have enough on the defensive side with Spags, his ability to scheme up different things, that if you have to keep him out a few games to start the season, then you do that. But I don't think they're going to need to. Maybe they kind of use Sorensen and different guys to give him more rest during the season. That's something that they could probably do, just to make sure that he's not going to be at risk down this season, just to going into the future. He's got that projection down. So I think that as long as we just see him be on the field, continue to do what he did last year, maybe at a little more elevated level in terms of turnovers, then I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's a nice progression for him. When we look at the other side of the ball, and there's not many question marks over there, but the one that I wasn't really comfortable with going in was, what if Travis Kelce has a hangnail? Who's going to actually play tight end? And now it's even worse. But I have to say, I'm bringing this up because my favorite quote of the weekend was from Nick Keizer, who's getting reps. And Tom Melvin actually talked him up about how well he's catching the ball, which I did not expect to hear. But I think I have it here. His quote was, when the ball leaves Mahomes' hand, there's little sparks and little rainbows on the end of it every time. I mean, that's a pretty good line if you're trying to ingratiate yourself to your quarterback.
Yeah, and Nick Keizer, I think he went to the practice squad last year. He was the 4th or 5th tight end that they had on the team, and probably the 4th coming into the season, behind Yelder and then Ricky Seals-Jones. Now we're looking at guys that are injured. I'm not sure what's going on with Yelder, if he's progressing at all in his development. We don't get to see anything, so I have no clue what's going on, other than the fact that Nick Keizer seems to be the lead number 2 as of right now for the number 2 tight end, which is it's fine with me. I saw him, do pretty well last year in the preseason. He's got that type of body that the Chiefs are looking for. He's not going to overwhelm anybody in the blocking game, but he's definitely got some athletic ability, and he's gonna bring some. If he's the number 2 tight end going into the season, I think he's got some upper level pass catching ability, especially if he continues to catch the ball the way he has been. And that's going to allow them to continue to stretch the field in more different ways with all the 2 tight end sets that we've talked about. And I like the mold that they have at tight end that they want. And it's what Nick Keiser is going to bring, assuming he's the number 2 tight end.
Yeah. And I don't know anything specific about Ricky Seals-Jones or his possible return. I haven't seen anything that I can rely on to tell you guys about. Yeah, and that may be significant in and of itself. I think by now, what are we, 4 or 5 days removed from that injury?
Yeah.
If it was something that was going to cost him the season, we would know by now. So I'm fairly optimistic that that's probably not to that point. They might be doing second opinions and that kind of thing. So we won't say that it's definite. But the other question mark on offense, I think we got some of an answer, at least for this point in the season. The Chiefs had a practice at Arrowhead with some fans in the stands. I know that was a lot of discussion about how everything's going to roll in the season, but I want to give the organization credit for taking the time to actually try stuff out. I haven't heard of another franchise actually testing how they're going to do things. So good for them. Yeah, was it perfect? No, but nothing's going to be the first time. So good for them for doing a trial run. But the thing that was really interesting to me is right now at this point in the season, we did get an information. Thanks to Nate Taylor and Herbie Teope, who for the first time we got lineups in what looked like team drills. And it so far is progressing the way I think we both had it. In the Osemele at left and Wiley at right. Reader still manning the middle. We'll see if that continues to hold up. But right now, it looks like a 5 that I think they can be fairly solid with.
I completely agree. And we saw last year when, Wisniewski came in at the left guard spot as a veteran to help that offensive line. It got better. It didn't get, it's not going to go from being what it was to just being great all of a sudden. But, we have some solidification, and having a veteran next to Ryder is going to help him in the long run, period. And that's something that you just can't. Wiley was an undrafted free agent. He played right guard and then moved over to left guard. And then you have LDT coming off of an injury, not fully 100%. Even though he is a veteran, he wasn't able to. They didn't have much in terms of leaning on each other, that they had to just kind of figure out who was going to go where. And pass blocking is just kind of whoever is going to get beat, whether it's LDT, whether it's Wiley, or the rotation at left guard. So hopefully having that left guard position as Osemele, who is, I think, an automatic upgrade at any of the guard positions, to be quite honest with you, is going to help him progress. Just take a little bit more of a next step, because if he just gets that little bit better, then I'm more comfortable with the center position. They did sign Daniel Kilgore a few days ago, and I actually like him quite a bit if they would have brought him in before the season began. Right. Because now he's probably the number 2 right behind Ryder, because they don't have that. He didn't have the time to get the offense down and everything like that. But he does a lot of things that Andy likes with centers, moving, pulling and everything like that. So center's going to be, an interesting position, but that's how it always is with guys that don't, you're not going to take in the top half of a draft. You're just kind of guessing with who's going to be doing what. So I don't know about you, but
it clarifies a few things for me. I agree with you. I think he's now clearly the backup there, which doesn't bode well for my boy Darrell Williams, but that might be just the fact that Darrell was a UDFA and he needs another year. That's perfectly fine. I'm not gonna worry about that. It also could be that it has become very clear to me that while Fish has had this concussion protocol, which he has returned from, folks, that he was in the lineup this weekend, that shows me that Remmers is the 6th offensive line. And the nice thing about that is very similar to what you had in Cam Irving, from the aspect that he could play 4 positions except for that center role, and now you have Kilgore. So I think Kilgore can play at the guard spots as well. I know that he hasn't much. What are you, like 20 snaps in the last 2 years or something like that?
Yeah, the last 4 out of the last 5 years has been center, and before that he played guard a little bit, but he's predominantly a center now. Yeah,
I think again they probably like him, like you said, a little bit more athletic, a little bit more, again, somebody that can probably play if he had to go in at the guard spot. So I think that gives you a more solid idea of what the top 7 are. And that actually makes me feel better because while I think the top 5, the starters have taken a little bit of hit overall, and I'm pleasantly surprised with the assembly because I was concerned when he was first signed whether he was truly healthy. Clearly, that is the case. And even though he's not as athletic, he is a very good guard. So I'm happy to see that. But overall, I thought the top 5 had taken a hit. These 6th and 7th spots play in this offense. They play every year. Somebody goes out, somebody misses games. I almost feel better now about the experience level of the top 7 over last year's top 7.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's, you brought in guys to be veterans and backups, and Remmers and Kilgore are going to be able to come in at any moment's notice and play, and they're going to be able to hold their own out there. And that's exactly something that we didn't really know last year. You got Rankin and even a bunch of other, like Irving, who's a guard. I can't stress to you guys how much Cam Irving is a guard. If you just watch him play tackle, he's not able to do it. Even if he swears up and down, he's a swing tackle. If Andy swears up and down, he's a swing tackle. He's guard. He's a guard.
There's only 2 people that think he's a tackle, and it's Andy Reid and Andy Heck. And okay, that's fine. Good for them. I want to see what he plays in Dallas. I want to see what that evolution does for him. Especially given that it looks like the Cowboys had a car crash. Lale Collins, I think.
Yeah, he'll be fine, but
is he okay? I hadn't seen that part, but Irving may get more of a chance than I ever expected him to. So more proud to him. I'm glad you got the ring and enjoy the rest of your career. But
great team.
I feel better about this 7 protecting QB1, and that's what it comes down to. So. On that part, I think the offense looks solid. You're going to have a piece later this week about the backup running backs because, again, folks, Clyde's going to be the primary. We've come to that realization at this point. I feel actually at this point that what I thought maybe might be a little slow, delayed start for him, maybe not getting the start early in the season. Given how much they've talked up his pass block ability, I think I'm over that now. So Daryl's going to be the primary backup, and I'm super happy with that. And all else, backfield, let's run the wing and let's get as many backs back there as we can. I'm ready for that. But you have a lot of depth on the rest of the guys. That's coming up. But in general, how do you feel about the position group versus last season?
Yeah, they got LaShawn McCoy was such a weird thing last year. He came in and he produced actually very well in this first 7-8 games of the season, and then he just hit a wall physically, or he just was not able to make guys miss in space. And he could still obviously get you a first down on 3rd and 1, but he was not able to do things that Andy Reid wants to do. Out there holding the ball out like this, fumbling it all the time, which is what it was an anomaly. Let's be clear. His fumbling percentage last year was an anomaly. But at some point, carrying the ball like he does, you're going to fumble the ball. That's just how it is.
It took a Super Bowl year for all of his karma to catch up, it felt like.
Finally gets on a team, he gets to a Super Bowl, and then you start fumbling the football. And you get inactive. That's how you earn inactivity for a Super Bowl and have a rookie, a 6th-round pick, be active ahead of you.
Yeah,
so, man. I mean, I feel bad for him. I mean, he got a ring, but I feel for him. But the position as it stands this year, they look to have a lot of similarities in terms of all guys that can pass catch and run the ball in between the tackles. That's just kind of what they all do. DeAndre Washington's not going to be much of a running the ball kind of guy, in my opinion. I think they're going to have Thompson and Darrell Williams that can run the ball in different situations for Clyde. But DeAndre Washington just seems to be more of a pass catching kind of guy. He can run a lot of the same routes out of the backfield that Clyde can. He's a pretty good angle route runner. They can split him out wide and all of those different kind of things. So I think that's going to be predominantly where we see him. If early in the season, maybe a 3rd down type of back, but I don't see him being able to just come in and take over as a lead back situation. It just doesn't seem to be his kind of thing. But I still think that Darwin Thompson's got a lot of upside as a runner, as a catcher, maybe not so much as a pass blocker, and that might limit his use as well. But I think overall they have a lot of similarities on 1, 2, 3, and 4 that they can just plug them in and get the similar production that they're looking for in different circumstances. So I'm pretty happy with the depth that we're looking at for running back, and you guys are going to see all of that this week. So I hope you like it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I got to tell you, you did a great job on that review. But I like that you emphasized, because Darwin's come out and said, Dylan McCullough's come out and said about how focused he is on improvement. And I told you guys a year ago that Darwin Thompson was going to need some time, that this was the year that he might have the best chance. Now, obviously, with Clyde, that has all changed. But I, again, feel really good with Clyde and the 3Ds being his backups. And I do think they take 4 into the season. We saw what happened with the position last year. And while I feel that it's maybe not as explosive as the 2019 group was, I do feel that it's more well-rounded. And I think it's guys that are young enough that can sustain a couple of injuries and pull through the season better.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it too. And, Damian Williams, I really would like to have had him on the roster. He's got obviously a lot of great playoff experience, but I think we have enough guys now that 2 out of the 3 have been through a playoff run. You're going to have Daryl mentoring his old teammate in Clyde, and that should help the whole group, because I think Daryl has the most, outside of Clyde, the most well-rounded game. So he's going to look to him, and I think that he could see quite a bit more goal line carries early in the season, just because that seems to be his biggest fit, what he does really well on the goal line. But yeah, I really can't argue with youth at the position, and then the flexibility to just kind of plug and play when they want to.
Yeah, I like that too. Youth is the name of the game this season in particular. And when we flip back to defense, don't be surprised. Willie Gay is going to have a big role in this defense, I think. But you guys are going to start hearing Ben Neiman's coming on too, and having another guy that's got a lot of experience. He had like 3 picks over this weekend's practices. He's getting reps, and they're playing with the lineups. Don't get too worried about if you see things from Neiman that you're not hearing about Willie Gay. They're trying to work it all out. And at the end of the day, Neiman's pretty athletic compared to, say, a Damian Wilson, but Willie's not even in the same realm. So it's going to boil down. We'll see what happens when the season starts. Don't get tied up in any of the linebacker situations, because I think they're experimenting a lot.
I'm getting tied up in the fact that Ben Neiman is playing well. I'm sorry. I'm tied up because we all know that there's a guy on this roster that can probably play well outside of Willie Gay, but we'll just leave it at that, because I'm a little upset that Ben Neiman's.
And yes, folks, I will have a look at Dorian O'Daniel later this week too. With the news from last week, we kind of bumped all the review back because we had things we had to cover last week while it was topical. So now I'll get back to that. And I agree with you. And that takes me again to that zone in between, that nickel linebacker to safety thing. The safety crew looks pretty good. Tedder Thompson's getting a lot of reps. It's the corners that we're still trying to hear some things. We saw that Spags himself was working with Bo Peep Keys over the weekend. I thought that was important. When you're getting attention from the defensive coordinator, you're not a guy that's just a role player. So I think that bodes well for them trying to get him up to speed. We heard good things about L'Jarius playing early. Then we saw Kemp score a touchdown over him. Okay. You're going to let that go. He's still a rookie, but I do feel like he's still a guy that's ascending and is going to be key to this defense, at least early on.
Well, yeah, and you have to have touchdowns scored against you. How are you going to know what you're doing wrong? Like, that's not a worry for me. Marcus Kemp is going to come in and just be able to play special teams. And man, if they keep 6, I'm telling you what, I really like Marcus Kemp, if he's fully healthy, to make the roster over Fortson and Dieter, just because he's Dave Tope's guy. Like, he's his guy.
Well, and here's the thing. When I was at camp last year, he's the guy who stood out because he's getting better at the wide receiver position until he got hurt. So I agree with you. And I still feel like he and Fortson are the same body type. I think there's a good competition there, but you're right. At the end of the day, Dave knows he can trust Marcus Kemp to do his job on teams.
Yeah, and I like Bo Peep Keys and I like L'Jarius Sneed, but like I just said, if you're not scoring touchdowns on them, how are they going to know what's going on? So I like seeing a guy like Marcus Kemp come in after being signed, not having any practice or anything, and then score a touchdown. Like that's cool to see, and then that in turn teaches the young guys what to do. And Sneed's got athletic ability for days. He's got speed. He's going to be able to get into this defense and contribute early. And obviously, having the safety play with Matthew and Thornhill whenever he comes back is going to help him flourish as well. So, and then Rashad Fenton is guy that I think is going to start on the outside. We talked about this all off season, and the list of the starting defense that Nate Taylor had put up did have 12 players, and I assume that's because Breland is the asterisk starter, and then Fenton is either sliding in, or someone out there is sliding in for Breland. He's just the asterisk guy. So that's what we expect, and I expect them to move Fenton all over the safety, all over the corner. Just he's going to play wherever they want him to play, and that's just what he's slid into that role. Kind of like we talked about the Kendall Fuller role. He's just going to play wherever they want him to play, and that's perfectly fine because he can do that and whatever they want him to do. But the young guys like Bobby Keys and Snead are going to be able to benefit from this defense just because of the way they use the safeties around the corners that make everything better for them. And I really hope to see Charvarius Ward take that next step and get 5-6 interceptions this year, because that's what's going to make this entire defense better, is getting that one corner that is almost a lockdown guy.
Well, I think there's going to be opportunity. I'm really excited about Snead, even more so than I was a week or two ago, because of one thing, and I can't remember who put it out. It might have been Nate. I'm not 100%, but the fact that before Tyreek Hill pulled his hamstring, Snead was running with him down the field. Now, we all know, in fact, somebody else put out all of the Chiefs wide receivers, all starting 3 wide receivers hit 21 miles an hour last season. That's impressive. The fact that Snead is carrying with him at this point, that's something that's going to be important. You've seen a little bit of clips of Henry Ruggs out in Vegas doing some things against some experienced corners, a lot of young corners, but some experienced ones. There is more speed in this division than we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And having somebody like Snead that has the ability to run with most of them, maybe not all of them, but most of them, I think goes a long way versus what you see in the rest of the cornerback group. So there's going to be opportunity. And if Derek Carr is the guy throwing the ball, the underthrows are going to be there.
You saw it already. We saw it already.
Right.
Talking up one of their corners because Derek Carr underthrew a pass. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's going to be there. It's an absolute fact he's going to underthrow a football, and it's not going to have the kind of zip that Patrick Mahomes has on it. So they're going to be able to time some things up, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're absolutely right on that one.
Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to talk about, it's a little away from the teams, is just with camp now being over a week with pads and hitting and stuff like that. I saw a report about how teams expected COVID to kind of pop up with more contact, and it really hasn't. And it's an encouraging sign. I just wanted to, exactly. I wanted to hear your thoughts on how that is looking to you going from now until the season starts.
I'm really encouraged at this point too, and I think it comes down to the screening is working. So you're not letting guys. I have heard of a couple of cases where guys have not come into the building on a given day and then ended up testing negative anyway. And so I think that's erring on the side of caution of not letting somebody come in if it's even a possibility. Yeah. So that's good. And I think if you're good at manning the gates and keeping each team's bubble secure, so far it looks like it's working. And it's going to be another thing. We saw Seahawks players sneaking somebody into the hotel, saw some guys going out to eat when they weren't supposed to or something like that. And the NFL came out with rules when they travel, it's going to be locked down in the hotel.
Yeah.
So as long as they can get that part of it and just keep guys to the guys, I think they're going to be okay. And I think it was Mitch Schwartz that said over the weekend that there's only so much they can do. They're going to take care of their house. And I think the Chiefs are amongst the leaders, if not the leader, in taking this seriously and doing their best to be healthy. But Mitch said at the end of the day, you have to trust that the other teams are doing the same, that the guy who's breathing in your face every down has been tested and has been keeping himself from exposure too. And man, if they can keep going like it is now, I'm pretty confident this is going to work.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it, and that outbreak that happened with the Marlins and the Cardinals in MLB is probably one of the best things that could have happened for the NFL season, because it gave you a look into what happens when things don't go right in a non-contact sport. So
right.
It locked things down for the NFL to realize that this was a serious thing, that if they didn't get everything done properly, with every team doing the testing properly and screening properly for camp, that it was going to be even worse than we saw in the MLB startup probably for camp. Camp would have been worse than it is now. So yeah, I'm much more confident that they're going to probably see over 12 13 games this season. If like I said, if it keeps going like this, who knows? They could even pull off a full season. So that'd be awesome. I've heard some, yeah, exactly, good. Some talk from Therese and Charles Robinson about maybe doing a playoff bubble. That would be, I think that if they did that, and if they got a full slated season in, a playoff bubble would be awesome, especially if they're still worried about it. Because I mean, I don't know if you've watched the NBA bubble for the playoffs, or a
little bit.
Some of the best basketball that I've ever seen, and it goes just to tell you how the guys don't care about necessarily all of the fans there, that they want to have the fans there, but they still have that level of competition. So that would be a cool thing to see the NFL try to experiment with.
Yeah. And I think it makes them more focused. I think the same thing's happening in hockey as well. I watched the ads over the weekend, and
hockey too.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to do this, but before, I know we got to wrap. We're already over. Sorry, guys. But I want to give credit to the NFLPA too, because you're right. The NFL got serious, and I think they've done a good job. The NFLPA seems to have gone better than any other players' organization in professional sports in letting their people know. And I feel like football players across, NFL players in general, have taken their health and this season a lot more seriously than we've seen any other sport as a whole in its group of athletes. So credit to them as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That said, keep it up, you guys. We would all like to see a full slate of football. I might even have to change my prediction from a 12-game total to a 16. We'll see.
It's just going well right now. And so there's still only one thing that I want to see, Chiefs. I just want to see a live stream. Every time we come on here, I'm going to tell you guys, give us a live stream. I know that you're trying to keep things under wraps.
Just sevens. I don't need team.
I don't care. Give me 20 minutes of 7-on-7. That's it. Just one time. Just one time.
We'll see. Chiefs PR, if you're out there, let us know.
I know you're listening. I know you watch it.
Yeah, sometimes. All right, folks. We hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to a brand new week, and we'll have plenty for you this week. A little bit slow over next weekend, but we'll have another great review for you next Sunday. Keep them all out there, and we hope you have a good week. Thanks for being on here, Dan.
Thank you. Always fun.
Have a good one. See you later, Chiefs Kingdom.